Hey guys, it's Dereka with Dereka's Designs, and today we are going to make this adorable little elf with his little arms. This is a no-sew project, so grab your glue guns and let's get started. Hey guys, we are back, and today we are going to make this adorable little no-sew elf. Now I have two versions of the head, just for your own. You can do whichever you choose. I like to change things up and see, what I prefer in the end. This one, I just used a piece of felt for the hair. If you are not really interested in doing all the furs, then you can just do the felt. It's perfectly fine either way. I swapped out some pom-poms for some bells. I just kind of made it, custom the way I wanted to see. This one, I stuffed the hat. This one, I did not. There was just some differences, but I will go through all of that as we make this. And you can choose which version you would like to make. But for right now, we will just leave him out here. Okay, so to start out, this isn't a huge pattern. It only has 3 pieces of foam board necessary. Now I like to, and the reason there's a line here, if you can see it a little bit closer, I like to put my face on here, right where I want it to go, and draw that line. That way, when I go to glue this down, I know I'm not going to be crooked or make it, it's easier for me. Let's just put it that way. All right, so hopefully you have done some no-sew attachments with me. We have so many available right now, but for right now, y'all, if you want to use this as a wreath attachment, you can just pop a pipe cleaner right through it. And yes, it's going to get in the way while you're doing this, but really not too big of a deal. So the first thing you guys know I like to do is the small things. Now these are the ears. And what I did with these is I just cut 2 pieces of felt together. I hot glued them together. And I did that just to give them a little more, they're just a little stiffer. When it's just 1 piece of felt, they tend to flop over. And then I took a Sharpie, just a regular old Sharpie, and I just drew the little curly Q thing on there. You don't have to do that. It's certainly optional. But normally when I make my ears, I sew them, I flip them around, and then I sew them again. And it gives the illusion of the little, that the ears have depth and dimension. So that's all I did with those. I just used a regular Sharpie. This is a brown Sharpie. But you could do a little bit of makeup, some paints. An eyebrow pencil would work. If you have an extra eyebrow pencil, you guys know I do. Sometimes, craft supplies don't give you the look you want. So sometimes you have to just pull out your old makeup from high school or whatever you have in your drawer from 5 years ago and just use that. And then we're going to use this little half wooden ball. It is cut in half. I ordered these off Amazon. I think I ordered them in the bulk of 1,000. So, but they're just half wooden balls. Instead of trying to glue on a whole wooden ball that could possibly get, knocked off, I just order these half ones. And then we have a little piece of this felt. Get my glue gun started here. And I just very lightly, guys, very lightly do some circles. Now I don't do circles in the very center because sometimes if the glue is too thick, you can see it through the felt. So I only put the glue really on the outsides. And then I just go around and I just pull it. You can see I'm just kind of pulling it, and then I'll cup it with my hand and just make sure the glue is adhering all the way around. And when you flip it around, you really can't see any lumps or bumps, or, the nose is pretty stationary. And then I like to just go back around and throw a little bit, anywhere there's some spaces where the felt, I didn't put glue high enough, I just add a little bit more in there. I kind of cup it in my hand and hold it for a second like that. And then you just take some scissors and snip it off. Snip off all of this extra. Don't go all the way. You want to leave just Just enough that when you push it onto the face, you won't see the wooden ball and you won't see little pieces of felt. And I just kind of go around it like this. Really simple. Now you can just use a pom-pom for the nose. You can get a piece of fabric and hand stitch it and make it just a little round nose. You can do whatever you like for the nose. This is just one of the things that I have on hand. If you order the kit from us on derekasdesigns.com, of course, we'll give you all of these types of things because it just makes life a little easier. But look in your stash of your craft supplies and see what you have that you could put as a nose. Now, I do have these eyes. They are printed on photo paper and they are covered in resin already, so they're nice and glossy. Now, I chose not to do any little laugh lines or eyelashes on him, but you can. If you are great with a paint pen or a Sharpie or even a little bit of fabric glue, or if you just have a steady hand and you can do that, you can absolutely give him a couple lashes, give him a little like squint lines on the bottom. You can do all of that. I just chose not to with him, maybe just for more of a masculine look, but it really, have some fun with it. But these are the eyes that would also come with the kit, but you can purchase these eyes separately also on derekasdesigns.com if you want those specific eyes. All right. So this is the little mouth we did the cutout on. Kind of, you know, just a little mouth with a little, I guess it's just supposed to be the tongue inside. We have some doggos being crazy out there. And and now the birds are crazy. Okay, so I just kind of glue that right there. You can just do a string if you just want a smiley face, you know, just a piece of string or even some, a paint pen and just draw a little. This is just another option. I like to do different things to show you guys how to do all the different, and you can incorporate them differently with all your different attachments that you've made so far this year. And that way you can swap them out. If you don't like the way this mouth looks, then absolutely just do a string or some paint, some fabric paint, and then let it dry. So don't think you have to use all this stuff. It's just totally up to you. Okay, so we have our nose, we have our little mouth ready, we have our little eyes and our ears. So those are all the little things. So now we're going to start getting our foam board covered. Now, because this has the triangles in it, it does get a little more tricky. You know, it's always, you just have to play. It takes a while. Let's just put it that way. You just have to be patient with it. And I like to start at one end. I get it good and centered. And then I start at one end. And I didn't cut this one quite big enough. And guys, another thing in my attachments, if you've made them before, I don't leave a whole lot of fold over fabric. I don't like to have to go back and cut it off. But if that's an issue for you, just cut your pattern bigger. So if this is the actual pattern, then just go, when you're cutting it out onto your fabric, just cut it a little bit bigger. No big deal. It will work the exact same way. But if this isn't enough fold over for you and you're burning your fingers, or it's just frustrating for you to try to pull it, then cut it bigger. Cut your fabric bigger. Just go, when you draw out your template for this, just go a little bit bigger. Go outside the lines a little bit. It doesn't really matter how big you go because you're going to have to cut all that off anyway. So I did both of the ends just so I could stabilize it. Like right now it's centered. I didn't want it sliding around. It's not perfectly straight, but it'll be okay. So we're going to cut off this little triangle here because it's just going to be in the way. We're going to cut a slit down into the crevice here. And then we will fold this piece over. Just hold it for a second, all the way up. Now, if you have silicone fingertips, go ahead and use those, or a silicone mat, you might want to. I know people always comment on how I can stand the hot glue, and it's just from years and years and years and years of doing this. I honestly feel like my fingertips are just calloused so thickly that it doesn't really bother me anymore. Okay, so we did this little, and when you turn it around, guys, it looks perfect. So even though the back might look all kind of cruddy, it's not perfect. You got a little end poking out here. When you flip it over, you're not going to notice that. And you're going to put a pom-pom right there. So don't get too hung up on making everything look perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and do a slit on these 2 or these 3 that are left as well. So we can go ahead and have those ready. And you just do one side, you trim the top, and then you fold over the other side. So I'm going to fold this one over, and we're going to hold it there for just a second. Make sure. And even if I'm this up close, even if right here, you see how my fabric doesn't go all the way into this crease, it's almost like there's this little hammock kind of thing there. It's okay. When you flip it over, it looks perfectly fine. You don't have to worry about getting it all the way into that crevice. All right, so I folded this one over. Now I cut this off just to get it out of the way, and I just cut a nice straight line there. And that's just to get it out of the way. And then you're going to fold this one over all the way. And then there's this little overhang right here. So I'm just going to give that a snip. So see, when we think about, like, you know, making it look like a package that you're wrapping or something, you just want the, you don't want a bunch of bulky felt right on this corner here, because then it'll be hard to adhere it to the hat up here. Okay, so we will do that. We're gonna I'm just going straight down with it. I'm not cutting. I mean, I'm still leaving a flat edge over there. Fold this one over, just like that. And again, this one's, you can see it even better. Where I cut in here did not go all the way to the white foam board. It's just up a little bit, but it's okay. It doesn't have to go all the way in. If you cut it all the way in, you will be able to see the white of the foam board on the top up here. And I don't particularly care for that. So we're going to cut that excess off like that. And then just going to keep going around one of these at a time. I have not done anything down here because we are going to stuff this just a little bit. Just a little, not a lot, but I like having, I like my no-sew items to have that almost 3D effect. This is a huge piece. I just trimmed that up. Okay, same thing as we've been doing. Fold it over. You don't really have to tug on this at all. You just fold it right over and then snip off this little excess piece that's sticking up. And then I'm just gonna trim this one off over here so that you're still gonna have some overhang right there, and we will trim that as well on these end pieces. You always do. So then take it, fold this one over all the way. You kind of want to hold this one. You don't want it to unravel. I'm going to take my scissors and just cut down. Now this has like a little hole in the end, so I'm just going to put a dot of glue in there and kind of pinch it with my fingers. I'll hold it closed. As you can see on this side, you don't notice any of that except for glue strings. So it all looks good. This right here, a little bump right there that didn't stick down well. So we will stick it down. And if you did make your pattern big and you have a lot of excess here, just take a little pair of scissors. You can use your regular scissors, but I like these little snips with the spring because it doesn't require you to, you know, I just basically do it with 2 fingers and just kind of snip off anything that's bulky or just, you know, might be overlapping. So just like that. So yeah, they're not pretty on the back, but if you know, with a little practice, you can cut it down and trim it to where you want it. So Now with this project also, you can use the quilt batting instead of the polyfill if you want a more flat look on his face. Like this is actually quilt batting in here. Everything is just a little bit of quilt batting. It's just very, very, very lightly stuffed. But for this, I'm going to go ahead and, actually stuff it. So I'm going to need a little dowel somewhere. Everything came out at once. So I'm just going to use a little wooden dowel. It's the easiest tool to use to stuff polyfill. Now you don't have to get it all the way up into the top. I'm not stuffing it so tightly that it's going to make really a huge difference. I just like a little bit of stuffing in it to give it more of a 3D. Just it's more fun that way. When it's all flat, I feel like it looks more like a painted picture than it does a plush attachment. So, and I'm just partial to the plush, you know that. So I'm just taking a little cotton ball sizes and then just kind of shoving them up into the triangles here. And then what I'll do is I'll use my fingers. I'm just going to go back and lightly put a little bit more along this edge. Not a lot. You don't want it really bulky and sticking up really far. But then you don't want big gaping holes either. So I go like that. I feel like this could use just a little more up that way, a little more there. Just kind of make it look how you want it. And you're going to flip it over. Using my fingers just to try to get as much polyfill stuck back in there as I can. I did not leave myself a whole lot of felt on this end right here. I'll make it work. Remember with felt, you do get about, I don't know, 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch of stretch if you really, really tug on it. So it's kind of your little fail safe just in case like that. I didn't give, now over here I have plenty of hangover, so I shouldn't have an issue with the rest of this. Just grab it. I use my fingernails to just kind of grab it, hold it over. I use very little glue. I don't want the glue seeping out into my fingers, so I try not to use too much hot glue on this. It's with just being felt and paper, it's not going anywhere. And if you see an area that's kind of popping up like this right here, throw just a little dab of hot glue in there. Just hold it for a second. Give it a chance to really grab hold. My little end's popping up here. So now I'm just going to cut off anything that's overhanging. So see, when you flip it over, all that mess on the back side doesn't really follow through onto the front side. It actually looks really cute. And it is just lightly puffy. It's not really big and puffy, but it is lightly puffy. Okay, so now let's go onto this is the face portion. And we're going to do the same thing. And whenever I have to stuff something, and this is a good example with this right here, I always glue the, jagged pieces or the pieces that are more complicated. I glue that side first. And then when I have a nice straight even line, even though it's curved a little, it's still a straight line. That's what I leave open to stuff. So on this face, I'm going to glue all the way around this big circle, and then I'm going to stuff on this semi-straight line here. It makes everything much easier to do, and you're not trying to stuff around little corners and little, I would not want to stuff through these triangles up here. So always, take that into consideration when you start gluing. Make sure you know which end you're planning to leave open. So we need glue sticks. Always have plenty of extra glue sticks, guys. Make sure it's high temp, not low temp. Doesn't matter which glue gun you buy. It doesn't really matter which glue sticks you buy. All-purpose glue sticks can be used high temp or low temp. You don't specifically have to buy high temp glue sticks. I use just regular all-purpose glue sticks 99% of the time. But your glue gun your glue gun has to be high temp if you want it to hold. You don't want things popping off, and you know, but right now the weather of course isn't bad, but you don't want things falling off of your customer's attachment on their wreath. I mean, that's not a good look for anybody, and my gosh, you know, you might lose a customer, you know, so you wouldn't want to do that. So now I'm just getting some more polyfill. I'm just going to lightly, see, my whole hand will fit in here, but I still like to use the stick because I like to flatten it out and kind of push it all the way down to the chin in both of the cheeks. I want to make sure I don't leave any big divots or gaping holes that later you can't really go back and fix. Once you glue it all on, you can't really go back and fix it. So I use my hand to feel it. I feel like there's a little divot right there, so I'm going to push some more in. Make sure I get it all the way to the sides. Push it. Yeah, and that feels good. I'm going to put just a little bit more up here at the top, just to make sure we don't leave any holes at the top. And then I like to just hold it when I'm doing this because I don't want the polyfill to pop out, but you can set it on the table if you wish. You're going to hold it. You're just going to get this first little section glued down and cooled before you move on to your next section, so that the polyfill, you know, it acts kind of like a spring, so you don't want it popping open once you start gluing it, because then it just makes a big mess. So I added a little more polyfill in there just so I can see. And then you just kind of go I'm going to go all the way down. Keep pulling it right there. And we're just going to hold it for a second. Okay. Cut off these big bulky corners. All right, and there is our front. Okay, so I explained to you earlier that I like to draw, I take the foam board piece of this face, and I like to put it on there and then draw the line right here. And it makes it much easier when you need to adhere fabric. Like I want this fabric to be very close to that line right there. Hold on there, I'm gonna flip it over. Now, and I just wanna make sure everything looks okay. Now on this one, because of the little curly Q here, we are going to cut a line all the way up into this, and then I just do a couple little stitches, little snips on each side, excuse me, just to get around that really harsh curve right there. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this section down so that it doesn't move. That's the one thing, I don't want things to move around on me. Once I have it here and I know that I've got enough all the way around, and then I'm going to slowly grab these little pieces that were the little snips that I made. Now, if you're pulling it and it's not really going, you might need to cut it just a little bit more. Again, this is why I like to use these little snips, because I can just grab them one-handed and just make a quick little snip and not have to worry about trying to get, you know, the big scissors out. I'll make one extra slit on that one because this is the harshest part of the curve. So then you grab all the little pieces that you have and pull them, but make sure you're not pulling this side through. Make sure you leave enough over here that you don't pull it too far. So I'm just gonna, and you can see here, well, maybe you can see on the front, it does look a little bit gathered because of where we cut, but that's okay. But in here, in this curve in here, you can't really see any of the white, you know. And this fabric has white in it, so it wouldn't be as noticeable as if you were using like a solid fabric. So, okay, so now we know this isn't going anywhere. So we can lay it back down It's gonna stay right where you want it. And we're going to glue all the way up this little curly Q here. Well, and we don't want to glue any further because we want to stuff this. So it's hard to get around the little curves. So go ahead and stuff it now before you move on to the rest of this right here. I'm not going to cut that off yet. Okay, birds are having a fit in there. Okay. I'm just taking my dowel and moving a little bit of polyfill into the end of this hat. Okay. My goodness. Okay, so we just keep going. I glued just this top part, so now I'm just going to fill in this little area up here to make sure it's all nice and even. Okay, so now I can go around and finish gluing the rest of this. Remember, it doesn't take a whole lot of glue. Don't glob it on, especially if you're using a full-size glue gun. Try to use your nozzle to spread out those big globs of glue so that they don't get your fingers. Go like this. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and cut this off while everything is cooling. I have big pieces of fabric here that I want to cut off. And then we will go back and just lightly stuff the rest of this. Now remember, this is actually going to sit right here, along when you put the face on right there. So maybe you don't want to stuff it too much at this very bottom part, but you definitely want to stuff it from here up. Okay, you can still put stuffing there, but you don't need it to be quite as plush as the top section. So. I just flatten it out, make sure it's even, make some more. Okay, so I think that's enough. So basically my whole bottom section down here is not stuffed at all. Just like where my fingers are. Kind of stopped it right there. That's fine. There we go. All right. So you don't have to do this, but I think I'm going to. I'm just going to put a line of glue under there as well. I don't think it really needs it, but I'll do it anyway. I'm just going to hold that on there for a second. That'll just keep the polyfill from sliding around. And you can see my hat is not 100% lined up with my line. Oh well, I mean, it is what it is. You can't really go back and fix it now. But what you can do is put your face on. Then of course this is going to cover it. And I don't think it was so far off that you need to start over. I think you can still make that work very easily. All right, so now I'm going to do the back of this. I get out my big glue gun when I do these big pieces. I just go all the way around. Put some glue in there. I always have 2 glue guns going, guys. It's just the way I roll. I always have to have a detail gun and then a regular gun. Flip it over and make sure it's even on both sides and everything is centered. And hold it down. And then I'm going to put this up here. So I know I don't want to glue past this one or about halfway past that one. So Just get your glue just in the center. The stuff that's, you don't want to glue the whole thing because it's overhang, and you really don't want glue seeping out on the edges. So now I can grab the ends because there's no glue on the ends, and flip it over. And what you're going to want to do with it, you're going to want to push it down, but you're going to want to push it to where the crown is meeting the head. So you really got to put some pressure on there, and definitely hold it for a bit. You don't want any gap. Well, if you have a gap there, it's not the end of the world because we are going to put some trims on like this, but it would just make them look uneven. So I just hold it in place. And you can see from the side that it is, there's definitely like a canal. I cannot get this on the camera right. A canal that goes down here, which is where we're going to put the hair. Now, I did give you the option of doing the 2 hairs. You can do just a very simple felt hair. It would kind of feed it into that little canal that I just mentioned, and then glue it down, and it would look like that. Very cute. Still, there's nothing wrong with this. Or if you just cut a strip of fur, it doesn't have, now the strip of fur is just like maybe 1/4 of an inch by however long this was. I think it's around 10 inches. So I didn't cut the fur with all this in it because that would look silly. So I just did a strip. So 1/4 inch by 10 inch. And this again, I'm going to put a little bit of glue in the canal since I know this is what we want to do. And I'm going to use my fingers to just kind of get it inside of that. Sorry if my head is in the way. I'm trying to see. And then you lift up this, put this here, and then just tuck it in. Tuck it in. I just use my fingernail to kind of tuck the edge of that into that little canal there. Grab the other side. 1 line of glue. Don't need a lot. It's just fur. Put it all the way. And then I use my fingernail. You can use your scissors or the dowel or whatever, but I just use it to tap it down into that canal. And then when you brush it down, you know, you shouldn't see the edge of the fur really. Okay, so then we'll brush it up, get it out of the way. And what I'm going to do is just go on and put another line of glue to kind of down at the edge here, just to hold it down. It's really not going anywhere. And that way. Now I would do this the same way with the felt. I would glue the very edge of the felt in there. I would tuck the end in so you really couldn't notice it. And then I would flip the felt up and I would go back and glue so that the felt, all of the felt, you want all of the felt, including this little thing, to be glued down. So, and then I like to create a part just because, I don't know, no real reason actually. You just use your fingers. If you have a little, excuse me, a little brush, you can use a little brush, but holy moly. And there, I just create a little part, and then I'm going to push it upwards because I'm going to put the eyes on in a second, and I don't want the eyes sticking to this fur. You could always bring it back down again. Okay, but first we'll do the nose. And we're going to do the nose in the very center of the face. I'm just eyeballing it. You can put your nose and your eyes and your mouth out first, which I probably should have done. This is what happens when you work with fur. You have glue strings for miles. But I just like to put the nose on first, so it gives you a center of the face, and then pull off these forever glue strings of fur. And we'll put the little eyes on. Well, let's do the ears next. Now, if you want to, you can glue the ear to the face right there. It's totally up to you. And then have it glued to the backs, to underneath the face. Oops. I leave kind of a long overhang on it. You guys, don't be afraid to trim it. I do that, you know, just so that there's enough fabric there for you to use. Okay, so we're going to move the fur out of the way again. We're just going to glue that. All of a sudden, I can't speak. We're going to glue the edge of this ear. Like I said, before you put the face on, you can, if you want to, put the ear up under the face between the 2 layers of foam board. It's up to you. It does leave a little bit of a gap in there, which isn't a huge deal. But also, like what I'm doing now, you can just glue it right to the edge here. You just have to cut a little bit of it off. I always leave just a little bit, just in case. And I just line the top of the ear with the crown, the bottom of the crown. That way I know they're even. And just kind of hold them on there. And it's okay if they face forward a little bit, because all you got to do is, you know, touch them and they bend right back again. Okay, so we have the ears on. This one didn't stick very well. I'm going to give it another little dot of glue right there, right at the top. There we go. Okay. I'm going to grab the eyes. Probably want them about right there. You can do them as wider apart or closer together, just whatever look you're going for. These are the fun eyes where he's kind of, you know, looking off to the side. I do have a version of this where he's just looking straight forward, but it's kind of intense. It doesn't have that fun, playful look to it, so I opted for these. I have to find some more. Olivia can draw these for me once I know what I want them to look like. But since I had these already made for another project, I just went ahead and grabbed them because it makes him look a little more playful. Like I said, when he's looking straight at you, it's a little intense. So I always think about that. You know, you don't want to give your project like scary eyes or scary eyebrows or anything like that, because who wants that on their door, you know? And then I'm just going to put the face or the little mouth right there. Okay, and now you can play with the hair and just kind of get it in his eyes or whatever you want to do with it. And you can glue it down a little bit too. Not the top parts, but if I were to take, say, a section of this hair over here, very lightly put just a line of glue, just a very simple line of glue. When I lay this down, just those bottom hairs are going to stick to it. But what it's going to do is it's going to hold all the other hairs down too, so that they all go where you want them to go. You don't want your part, like you don't want the part to be ruined. So you can put a little, the lightest dab of glue right there, just so that it's pulling all of that hair this way, and the hair sticks to itself. So of course it's going to keep it parted for you. So sometimes it's not good to comb or brush this faux fur. It tends to get fluffy. So if you want it to look more like hair, you know, I would never, I just use my fingers. I would never use a comb or a brush unless that's the look you're going for. Okay, so let's finish him up really quick and then we'll work on the arms. Simple little pom-poms, hot glue. I didn't go overboard when decorating him. Didn't really feel like he needed it. And I just have these little pom-poms I get from Hobby Lobby, and you can get them in bags of like 100. So if you don't need that many, they also have multi-color packs where you get lots of different colors, which, you know, who knows, with the projects we're doing this summer, you may end up getting to use those other colors. So, but I think it's $1.99 for a bag of pom-poms, and they're really not too expensive. So, and if you're only making one, if you'd rather use bells, then use bells. If you'd rather use something else that you have on hand, then use what you have on hand. Don't. I always say, don't run out and buy something just because I have it here. If you have something that will work, then absolutely use it for sure. Like this trim. I mean, I have this trim in 100-yard rolls. You're not going to find this anywhere. You can find something very similar if this is the look that you want. If you go to Hobby Lobby or Joann's, you can absolutely find something very similar, but maybe not this exact trim. So just be aware of that. There's some things I can't tell you that you can just run into a retail store and buy, because I buy wholesale, you know, in bulk. So, but you can get something very close to it, and you wouldn't need more than a foot or two for a project like this. And even that, I think it's 12 inches for this, so, or 10 inches. So you really wouldn't need much. And for one roll, and if you wait until they're half price, you can do lots and lots of projects. So, I know you guys go crazy over ribbons the same way I go a little crazy over trims. When I see a trim that I like, oh yeah, it's on. So it's just a different craft. But if you want to do these, you know, keep making these no-sew attachments, then having a few really nice trims in your arsenal is always a good thing. And now I pulled the little end through, and I'm just folding it over in the back here so we can hide it. Okay, there's that. And I had that on there, and I thought, well, it's just not enough. So I added this little rope, even though this is silver and this is gold. I really didn't think it looked too bad. This is from Hobby Lobby in the Christmas ribbon section. They have a red rope, a black and white twisted rope, and I don't remember the other ones, but this one is the lime green and red. It went with the fabric I had, so I just decided to add some of this on there just to give a little bit more color, and also to help fill up this little ravine. Remember the ravine where we put the hair in? That's the same ravine that we're putting these trims in. So a little rope like this will really help to, you know, kind of fill it in. So it's not as noticeable that two pieces of foam board were put together. Just gives it a little more like that. Okay. Now this rope does come unraveled, so I don't like to cut it until after I've glued it. So I'm just holding the little end over here like that. And this one has kind of a long end on it, so I don't want all of it. I'm going to cut some of it off, but I want to glue it down before I cut it so that it doesn't just be really bulky. Let's see if these scissors will cut it. There we go. And then you just want to hold them down like that. All right, guys, the little face is done. Super cute. Now, if you wanted to use a scrap piece of felt, you could cover this backside. It's up to you, depending on what you're doing with it. There he is. Other than a good lint rolling to get some glue strings off, he's ready to go. Like I said, you can easily decide how you want the ears to look. You don't have to use this mouth. One thing I like to do is I have this e.l.f. Blush palette thing. I don't wear makeup that often, guys, so I just sort of donated this to the cause. You take it and put it on a small brush, and you have to blow it. You don't want gobs of it. You don't want a big blob of... Sometimes when the cheeks are too red, it just looks weird. Especially the nose. I did a Santa one year, and the nose was too red, and Santa looked like he had a little sauce. Looked like he got a little drinking before his trip across the world. So, see, like that one is probably too dark. I wouldn't like that, but it's okay. We're gonna... Once you put it on there, you can't take it off. So... That's the bad part, which is why I always blow it first. So I'm gonna put just a little bit on top of his nose, just to give him. Might not have been the best color for him, but you know, see what you have. See what you have, and use what you have. You want them to stand out in the wreath. So those little, I don't mind. Actually, the rosy cheeks actually look pretty cute. It's just a little darker than it should be. So that's it. Those are the two heads. So now the arms, we haven't done in all of the attachments that we've made for no-sew. We really haven't done a no-sew attachment for the arms or legs even. I'm not a big fan of them most of the time. I prefer to sew arms and legs, but I will show you if you just want this cute little face, but you want him to hold a gift, then we're going to just go ahead and give him little hands with little mittens on them. Okay, so get two pieces out like this. Need more room. And you just have to make sure you remember that they're directional. So you have to, when you go to put them together, you know, you want them to be the direction, the same direction. So we're going to put a line of glue at the bottom of the mitten. Place the arm, the green arm. Now, if you don't want to use the solid green, you can use your pattern fabric for the arm too to make it look like he's, you know, wearing the same color. It's up to you. I just opted for, when you're gluing stuff like this together, felt is just so forgiving. It gives you so much more control. So, and it's not going to bleed through like a thin cotton fabric that, you know, the hot glue can bleed through it. So I'm just setting those on there. I'm not being perfect. I'm going to put little cuffs around it, so I don't have to be perfect with it. So now I'm only going to glue the mitten first, because then we're going to stuff it while we work on the other one. Oops. So put them together right on top of each other. Fold the first one back. And I just go right to the wrist, and I'm putting a solid line of glue. Again, if you're using a full-size glue gun, try not to get it to the end to where it's going to be seeping out the edges, because that just makes it, you end up with glue strings and it's just kind of a mess. So I'm going to pat it down, and just for this, I'm just going to set him under this. That's just going to give a little extra weight to, you can put him under a book or whatever. I just like to hold it down that way. I mean, you can sit and hold it if you want to, just, it takes a little while. And, you know, you might have a little area that the glue will pop open on. So don't, you know, that's just one of those things that happens when you do a no-sew project like this. So hold it on there. I'll take this other one, set it on there. These aren't very heavy, but maybe they'll just give it just a little bit of pressure. Then I'm going to take my cuff, and I'm just doing it very simple, guys. I'm just going to fold this in half. I'm not doing anything because I'm also going to put a little piece of yarn over the edge. So we're just going to fold it in half. All this is just to bring a little color from the hat into the mitten. That's all it is for. It's really not going to serve any purpose other than to be cute. You don't have to put this on there. I just like to tie my pieces together in some fashion. So I'll put it back over there. Okay, so now we're going to use our dowel again and stuff the little hand. Now you cannot stuff it hard. This is hot glue, guys. It's not like it's a sewn item. And if something pops open, that's okay. You just have to stop, add a little more hot glue to that area that popped open, and let it, you know, cool off. So I'm just lightly putting it, and you don't overstuff these. Don't try to make them really tight and really big. You're just wanting to give it a little bit of a 3D effect, but not big. Now, getting it in the little thumb is tricky. You just have to get a small piece. Use the dowel. Kind of just slightly push it into. Now I can see right there on my thumb, there's a hole. So before I try to stuff anything else in there, right, I move the polyfill out of the way, and then I hold that. We want to let that completely cool. I'm going to set that over there. I'm going to let that cool before I keep messing with it. We'll work on the other one. You don't have to use the dowel. You can use your fingers. You just have to be incredibly gentle with it. Now I like, when I make these little hands on my attachments, I like to use wire. I like you to be able to fold them, bend them around the package. I like them to hold in place. You don't have to use wire. You can just sew, or, well, you can, I guess, hot glue a little tab back here. That's just not how I would choose to do it. Not to say that there's anything wrong with the tab. On certain items, the tab is very much all you need. But when I'm doing hands, knowing you guys and how you make your wreaths, you like your little characters to hold things. You like them to hold an ornament or a present or a sign even. You know, to be able to have the little mittens go around and hold the sign on the ends. It just looks really cute. It looks like the pieces were made to go together. So that is why I always use wire. Okay, so we got the mitten part is stuffed on both of them. So now we're just going to go and do about half of the green. Again, hold it down. And then grab this one, hold it down. Okay. Now, because this is straight, you can usually go ahead and stuff it relatively quickly. Okay. Okay, so now go ahead and glue all the way to the end. Oops. Make sure all the polyfill's out of the way. And again, just hold it down. Normally when I do this, the place that's going to pop open is where these 4 pieces are together. But these ones didn't pop open this time. So, I don't know. Usually it does. And this is why you need high temp glue, a high temp glue gun. Because a low temp glue gun would just go on this fabric like rubber. And it wouldn't meld into the actual felt to hold this. So high temp is always, always recommended. Now it doesn't have to be like a super heavy duty, like 220 watt glue gun like this one to be high temp. This one is just 20 watts, but it's a high temp 20 watt, which means, you know, the glue is heated more and it's more liquid-like. And that's definitely what you need when you're doing fabrics. Like I said, if you're making wreaths and you're attaching things to it, you don't want things falling off. So I always, always recommend a high temp glue gun for any attachment. You know, it just doesn't look very good when your customer, especially if y'all living in Texas and it's, you know, 105 degrees all summer long, you just don't want things falling off. A high temp glue gun is a really good way to make sure that things stay on. I mean, it's not guaranteed, but it's definitely, you have a better chance of things not falling off. And I'm just lightly hitting it in there with my finger. Okay, so I have 2 pieces of wire here, and I'm just going to curl one end of it. And I'm going to slide it all the way. Now you want to make sure you have a left and a right. I'm going to slide, oops, I went all the way out. Oh, I'll have to glue that too. Apparently we had a hole at the end that I didn't notice. So let's pull it back out again. If you have little clamps, I mean, you can clamp these down so that they really hold. If you have that, you know, the time to just clamp them, that'll work too. So there. Yes, we have crazy birds. Okay, so once you get the wire in there, then I just glue the end shut. Like that. Oops, I got a little glue on the outside, so I didn't want to burn myself. There we go. Like that. And then I just take these and I'm going to go right across the wrist there. Place this on there. And then right across the back. And, you know, like that. And I always add just a little glue on the very back piece. I don't know what's going on with those birds out there. I don't know if you all can hear them, but they are going a little crazy. Every one of them is having a field day. Uh-oh. Somebody woke Bella up. If any of you are watching for the first time, please know I have a house full of parrots. They don't like being left alone, so they tend to be naughty. And that siren sounding thing, or alarm, that is Bella. And she's very loud. Imagine being in the room with her like that. Okay, and then I just have a piece of this chunky yarn. Guys, just use whatever you want. And obviously, you don't even have to make the hands if you just want the face. But I like to just decorate up these cuffs just because that's just me, you know. You don't have to. You could do a little bit of fur, like the, you know, the little elf is wearing a fur lined. You could just put a strip of fur across back here, like a, almost like a little Santa suit type thing. I'll just glue those on. But I opted to use these, just something different. It's what I had on hand, and I didn't want to do more fur because we used the fur on his hair. So, alrighty, guys. That is it. That is our cute, cute, cute little elf. You can use him. Now, if you, I should say this, when you get done gluing everything and you notice that they are very, very uneven, like this one is, just trim off the piece that's hanging over. You don't have to, but if it makes a difference in where you put it in your wreath, if they can see that, then you might want to just trim it. I tend to be a little more OCD about that stuff, so. But here he is. I hope you enjoy him, and I'm going to go play with some birds before they erupt out there. They're being a little crazy. So if you want a kit for this, it comes with everything you see here. You can get it at derekasdesigns.com. You can purchase the resin covered eyes there as well. If you want to make your own, but you don't want to do the eyes, we have those available. Just go to derekasdesigns.com in the Creative Coaching Kit section. Well, that is it, guys. Thank you so much. You have a great day.